With that, we do want to start with questions and any comments that anybody might have. We will be taking notes both in a notebook, and also Angela will be taking some chart notes. So if we don't capture your question or comment correctly, please correct us, because we want to make sure that we have accurately recorded your thoughts and questions. Yeah, we did. And I will say, at this point in our planning process, we may not have the answers. We are early in the process. We are really trying to find out what issues we need to be addressing. So we may not know the answers, but at least if we know it's a concern, then we can go ahead and think about that and incorporate that into our planning.
Subsistence, it makes me think poverty stricken. And like too many people want to sign up for that. So can you explain what exactly you do by subsistence?
The question was what is subsistence ag? Okay, so in the Hawaiian homelands experience, the subsistence agriculture has a very specific kind of definition. If you're familiar with where we have ag, like Panaeva, those are much larger lots, 10 acres. On the island of Molokai, we have acreage as much as 40 acres, yeah. With subsistence, what we mean is basically it's a rural lot, a place that you can provide food for your family, a place where you can live. And actually, conceptually, it was what Kuhio initially started with, just land where you could basically provide food and a place to live for your family. It will also provide the opportunity for people who are interested in farming to just get started, right, with a smaller lot. And there may be the potential, we've been talking about, for those that actually have a desire to do ag on a larger scale, to be able to move into ag parks that may be on the homelands. But that's kind of, a possibility. So, and really, I do have to say that while Julie gives a lot of credit to me, it wasn't only me. Former Commissioner Liloy, who was on the commission when I first started, also was concerned about ag lots and the opportunity for beneficiaries to be able to do ag. So it is a little bit different than maybe what you might be used to in terms of the lay language of subsistence. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
There's no sewer here. I mean, and if you do cesspools, it means contamination, a lot of contamination if you have hundreds and hundreds of residents. I mean, I just think it's a bad choice of where to do such tiny ones. If you were doing 10s and 20s, I would think it would clear.
So the question, or I guess the concern for those of you on this end who may not have heard it, is the size of the lots. The comparable properties up there may be 20 acres, and there's a concern that the subsistence size is very small, relatively speaking. So that is why I started with the first slides that I did, because for the state, this opportunity to open up the homelands to beneficiaries on the waiting list, while we recognize that it may impact some of you who live nearby, and it is an obligation that we have as a state to make this opportunity available to beneficiaries who've been waiting sometimes for decades. So with the size of the lot, with what we found in the experience is with the larger acreage, not many of our beneficiaries have the capacity or ability to put 10 or 20 acres into production. And so the 3 acre or smaller was intended to, based on the rain conditions, the soil conditions, to provide a size that is sufficient for you to start farming for your family. Now, not all of these are going to be residences. It's an option that the individual has whether or not they want to reside on this lot. And so the issue of what kind of infrastructure, likely it'll be individual wastewater systems. They're going to have to be compliant with health regulations. They're going to have to be willing to live in an area that is intended to be rural and ag in nature. So it cannot be a situation where, you know, the typical smells that you have or those kinds of things, that's part of the expectation when you live there. So while I understand your concern about the size, if we were only to do 10 or 20 acres, then you're talking about that many less people who would have an opportunity to reside on the homelands. I'll come back to you, ma'am, if there's other questions. Sir, in the...
You're familiar with Honomu farmlands, right?
I'm familiar with
You mentioned Honomu farmlands.
Yes.
Okay, but Hawaiian home farmlands. Maybe 2% of those people are farming. What makes you think they're going to change up here?
So...
The difference is they come up here 3 acres.
That's a very good question. So the question was in terms of the Maku'u farm lots or the Pane'ewa farm lots that a very small percentage actually farm. So why should there be any change in expectation up here? I think in terms of, in the case of Pane'ewa, you know, I think there are people that actually have tried farming, but it's not easy because of and in Maku'u you have blue rock. So that's a very good point, but we want to, I'm sorry. Okay, so you have concerns about the soils. I want to make sure we capture your comment. Okay, well, we appreciate your feedback, ma'am. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Go ahead.
I forgot to call on the head of the community association.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the head of the community association. Yes, ma'am. Come.
Thank you. I'll try and make this very brief. I'm Springer Kay. I'm the president of the Honomu Village Association, and we're kind of back in action after about 12 years. Try and get this thing to stop clicking at me. Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. Sherry was kind enough to give me a few minutes to talk to you tonight, basically to welcome everyone who is a resident and a future resident of Honomu to join the association, to welcome you to our Christmas party, which is going to be on December 16th, right here in the gym. Mark your calendars. And, you know, just let you know that we're here to provide a conduit for communication and to bring fun events to Honomu. And I wanted to thank Carlton Loving for kind of bringing attention to this development, to the community, and making sure this meeting happened and so many of our officials could be here tonight. Thank you. And, you know, we've been all following this closely. Some of us have seen this presentation. Some people might think that our community is freaking out about this, and I just want to say what I've observed are really insightful, sensitive, and measured questions up to this point, to just finding out more information being asked to Sherry here and to DHHL by both HVA board members and individuals in the community. What I really want to say tonight is just so easy to make a careless comment that might set us up to be adversaries with our future friends and neighbors. And that risk puts a kuleana on all of us tonight to really watch our words, to stress that we have nothing but respect and aloha for our future friends and neighbors, and that we say welcome. Welcome to Honomu. Welcome to our events and our Christmas parties. And we say that in the spirit of, you know, you're our brothers and sisters, and we've been sitting here in your seat. And come and sit close to us. Come and sit at the table with us. And we've been around long enough to know that the beneficiaries are as much at the mercy of the department's decision-making process as we are. So many beneficiaries have endured living in some of the most environmentally impacted communities in the state. It's long past time for homelands to open up lands that are clean and green. We're told that many of the applicants will be kupuna, our elders that have waited more than long enough. But in my opinion, it's not going to stay clean and green if the developers carve up the land cheap and fast and lay the burden of the future maintenance on the homesteaders. The Native Hawaiian beneficiaries deserve better than cheap and fast when it comes to roads, water, sewage, electricity, internet connectivity, and other basic necessities. Farmers across this whole region deserve response from government when we are struggling with theft, flooding, invasive pests, access to markets. Developers and consultants of all kinds have to be held to standards to avoid passing on future remediation costs to taxpayers and to the homesteaders. We've seen what happens when people just put lines on a map and call that a development. So we expect to be united with the homesteaders in holding the Department of Hawaiian Homelands and its consultants to meeting their responsibilities, both to the beneficiaries, to the environment, and to our community. So for these reasons, in our questions and in our comments tonight, I suggest that we resist any impulse or any characterization that would pit our community against the beneficiaries. When we question the plan, it's not the recipients, but the department and the planners that we're questioning. If the department's genuine in expressing that these are early stages, that significant planning is still to be done, then we still have time to work for the best possible outcome for all of us that will be living here when the folks from Oahu pack up and go home, right? So that's why I would propose an infrastructure and services committee be set up among the beneficiaries with some representation from the Honomu community on that committee. So thank you for your time and patience with me and for moving forward with our hearts full of aloha. Thank you.
Thank you, Springer. And I apologize. I was supposed to give her some time at the beginning of this, and I totally blanked out. Yes, we really appreciate having all of you here, and it is early in the process. We do want to hear what all of you have to say so that we do understand what the concerns are. You had a question, sir?
Because they deem that is the amount the person needs in order to make a living, really, and it's a shame to destroy the land, put houses all over the land, when really right now it's being used for agriculture, a lot of it out there. And that's going to stop, it'll cease once this starts, I'm afraid. And I just wonder why that they want to have such small lots, because they're going to have to go out and get a job. There's no way they'll be able to exist on that land and be able to live on there and be able to afford, a standard of living that they deserve. And I kind of feel it's kind of an insulting to the Hawaiian people that they kind of made a war to the state, that they never really own their land, that they only can use it for so long and they have to give it back again. I mean, it's okay if they want to allow to transfer it to another Hawaiian, but they should be allowed to own the land, not just to be able to just be like a board, in a sense. And I just feel that's it should be.
Your concern is the size of the lots, not being able to support a family so that, they won't be able to grow enough to be able to sell it and support themselves. They will need to have another job. So the size of the lots is too small. And in addition to that, for the department really should be allowing people to purchase their lands or to own the land rather than just lease it. Is that correct, your two main points? Okay. Again, the size of the lots for the 3 acres, this is not meant to really be your primary source of income. This is for the lessees. This is to provide some additional food for your family. I think the idea is that you actually do have a job, and this is kind of to help supplement that. Also, as a starter, if you are interested in agriculture, try it out for your smaller size lot first. If you are successful, if you learn enough from that smaller acreage, maybe there's an opportunity to scale up. So I think that's what we're talking about with the smaller lots. In terms of purchase, this is actually something that's in the department's rules. So it's not something that I think we can get into tonight, but we will take that down. Ma'am, you've had your hand up for quite a while.
To them being there, because it's surrounded by bigger lots. We all, as the gentleman said, have to buy 20 acres or more. And we that friendly to you and allow you to do this, then they darn well better let every 20-acre lot holder in the whole area divide down to 3 acres and totally change the area. Why would this big chunk get to do it and not everything else? No, you've got to work with planning and not just say, oh, this is pretty, let's just do this. Make your 3-acre parcels over by my man. I used to have a lot of land over there. I used to live next to it.
Thank you. So again, the concern is that the 3-acre lots are not appropriate for the Honomu area because it is within other lands that are 20 acres in size. Okay. I'm sorry? Okay, so the question is how small can the lots be? I don't think that we've determined that at this point. It just has a maximum limit of 3 acres. Ma'am, you had your hand up? Yes.
Something Springer brought up. I know we've got county reps here. I'm wondering if, as you move forward on this, are you going to talk to the state about possible improvements to a pocket walls or movement? Because eventually you're going to have people wanting to turn left, going up the hill, if their lot is on the Hilo side, and turn left, come down the hill, if their lot is on the Honokapa side. So you're going to want turn lanes in a pocket walls road, I think. And I would say start planning for it. Get the nudge the Department of Transportation to start planning for it now.
Okay, so the comment is we will need to be working with the State Department of Transportation on any possible improvements to the road, to Akaka Falls Road. We have had a traffic consultant go out. They have done traffic counts, so we know what the usage is on a normal basis. Once we have a concept, then we will be taking that and looking at our environmental assessment. So the environmental assessment will look at impacts of that concept. And so what impacts will we have on traffic? And then we will be working with the State Department of Transportation on, okay, what improvements then are necessary? And I think we have a representative from, okay, sorry. I'll get to you. Yeah, so we are looking at traffic impacts. Thank you. I'm sorry, sir, you had a question?
I have a lot of comments, but I'm just going to speak. So it's like that coins can be someplace where you get water and land and dirt and stuff like that. And I would love to see more Hawaiians in Honomu. My name is Gary Alana Leo Hanani Sato. I'm originally from Waianae, so I'm not a foodie per road. But I live kind of on the outer side of Pahehehe now, and I'm a taro farmer over there, and I do wetland taro, and I use the water from Pahehehe Stream, and Pahehehe Stream goes kind of right through all of the lands that's going to be developed, and so I'm kind of afraid of what will happen to the stream once the water gets to me, and I count on that for my subsistence farming. And you guys are the Konihikis, right? You guys play like a Konihiki role to all of these lands, and so I'm not going to tell you how you should. I don't even know how you should run it, so I don't have an answer. But I think that you should, in the beginning, when you're planning, maybe you say, okay, because cattle is good, but too much cattle is no good, right? Anything of too much, you cause detriment to the environment. And then, I'm not going to get crazy and ask for organic farming or anything, but I would love that. But if you get people on the land that will grow on certain kind of crop, what they're going to be putting. I think you guys should have amount inputs of herbicide, inputs of pesticide, inputs of, even if it's good stuff, you can put, inputs of organic matter or whatever, but because there has to be a way to regulate it, and if you guys don't know what's going into it, then how can you regulate it? I don't have time to be climbing up the stream and looking where the runoff coming from, and I don't have time or resource to hire people to come test for me and stuff like that. And so I just really kind of plead to you almost, please do it right. Because you're going to do it, you know. And I'm happy that Hawaiians can farm. But please, as Konahikis, like, do it right, do it good. I don't know if you can do 10-acre parcels and then they can sublease to other Hawaiians as a way to have bigger parcels or what, but you know, my main concern is, for me, is the water. Our watersheds are depleted, they're low. We have good water and we gotta try to keep good water.
Thank you.
So if you had a hard time hearing that, his main concern is the water. He makes use of the water in the stream. He wants to make sure that it remains healthy and not polluted. You know, he wants us to really make sure that we are conscious about what gets put into the land. You know, herbicides, pesticides. You know, what about runoff? Because that will all affect him, who is downstream. So that was his main concern. He just wants to make sure that we do it right. So thank you very much for your comment. Yes, sir.
Being done correctly, and what are the consequences if it's not? Because if I just heard you right, you would sell at least 700 people, 700 families. You could have 1,400 to 2,000 people, and it's not 500. It's 4 to 5 times what we're used to. Then we have to can you tell us what your department does? Monitor and make sure this commitment is fulfilled.
Okay, so the question is, what will the department do to ensure that there are certain controls, make sure that people are farming and make sure people are acting appropriately in terms of application of pesticides or things with runoff. Joby, were you?
So let me just make sure I understood the question. Your question was, what will the department do to ensure that people are utilizing their lot appropriately? Yeah. So in this particular, with this particular project, the department is actually adjusting the way in which we are offering awards so that the staff that are actually issuing the award, which then becomes the lease, maintains a relationship for up to 3 years with this lessee, checking in to make sure that there is compliance with the lease conditions and those terms. Julie had mentioned in the presentation the importance of trying to develop the programmatic piece along with the awarding of the land, which is something that we may not have been strong with before. And so in that vein, we're working on partnerships both with CTAR, and so our CTAR agent is here. I was just speaking with her about the pesticide question, which is a very good question. And so our intention is to maintain contact with these initial awardees for a much longer period of time than has usually been the case for Hawaiian Homes, so that we can ensure that there's compliance to the lease. So whether it's through our CTAR agents, whether it's through our staff, or whether it's through, we're working also with the Department of Ag to ensure that those who have these awards and their use of pesticides, that it's in, or whatever, that it's in. So that's actually a question that we've been working on in terms of what constitutes utilization of the land. and that will be outlined in the lease. So, well, it's intent. If you've lived on the homelands, actually, sometimes your best monitoring are your neighbors. If there's, and so, but we do have, unlike other awards where the award is done and then the department kind of says, okay, good luck, we wish you luck, let us know if there's any problem. This is a little bit different. The expectation is that it's not going to be hordes of staff, but we do have staff that will be checking in, with these families to make sure that they're on track in terms of using the lot.
And those things are written in the lease. Like, I'm just very concerned about the pesticides. Who regulates that? The water detergent. When you meet with the beneficiaries, is that something that's on their list now? Like regulations on the type of things they can use, the way they can use the water, so that it doesn't affect people downstream.
Right. So the whole water discussion, that is very good feedback as it relates to this, the development of the properties. The lease, the specific lease terms and conditions related to subsistence agriculture is still being developed. We have the rules, and then the standard terms and conditions will be the same, but then specific to utilization, those kinds of things, we're still working on the specifics of that. So this is good feedback for us. And then, yeah, this map. We don't know yet because the lotting plan hasn't been done, and as Sherry had indicated, I'm sorry. As Sherry had indicated, the planning has just begun, so it may not all be subsistence ag. There may be a part of it that is subsistence, and there may be lands that are left available for larger lots and or agricultural parks, and or there may be other uses based on the topography and what makes sense for the land. So the lots have not yet been determined. This gentleman that stood up.
What's your anticipation of land value in this project?
So for Hawaiian Homes, land valuation is not something, we don't know what the impact will be in terms of the property values around Honomu. Generally speaking, when Hawaiian Homelands comes in with those kinds of infrastructure, you see improvements in land valuations versus devaluations of land. Yeah, I don't know, because for Hawaiian Homes, it's very unique.
If you're going to sell, it's not favorable. If you're going to stay here,
right, sure. I agree. That's good feedback. Sir.
Will the land be sovereign, or will it be part of the county and have to adhere to all laws like the rest of us do?
Okay, so the question was, will the land be sovereign, or will it be subject to county zoning like the rest of the fee simple properties? Hawaiian Homelands is very unique because the jurisdiction for land use is specific to the Hawaiian Homes Commission. So our land use is not subject to county zoning. So, but what we try to do in working with the county is we try to identify the zoning that would be most applicable to our land uses. So we are not subject to the county processes the same way. Yes. Yes. So the question is, are those lands still subject to police, fire protection, those emergency services? Yes. Those issues, in terms of the application of the laws on Hawaiian Homelands and the enforcement of those laws by the police, the ability for the fire, I mean, we want to, and we do require before a homesteader builds at this point to get a building permit, because we want to make sure that the home is built safe and is not subject to any kind of, concern. But the police, they can enforce the laws on the Hawaiian Homelands. It's not like tribal lands. It's state lands. Sir, Mr. Loving.
So
I've been looking for land for a long time. And my grandma and my mom, they didn't do it, so I don't qualify for any of this. But, like, I've been looking because my family is from this coast. And every time I find a piece I think I can chop up and afford, my conscience tells me, look at it. Look at it. You can't chop it up. It has to stay together. Because if you chop it up, people aren't going to know what's going on with the water and this and that. So she keeps vetoing it. Are you guys going to work with soil conservation so that, because it can't really be each little tiny guy saying this is what I'm going to do. It's going to be kind of like an overall where soil conservation comes in and says, this is how you have to do this for this 300 acres, and then fit the people where you can fit them and let the water run. Because, like, people, like, the idea of 200 inches a year on paper and seeing 2 inches, it's like really different. So I just wonder if soil conservation is helping you guys out.
Okay, so the question is, and I think if I hear you, and I maybe if I can restate your question, you want to make sure that as we look at the planning for this process, number one, that we consult with or consider soil conservation, but more importantly, that the plans make sense in terms of the viability of this property. Would that be?
What I'm saying is, like, when you start chopping things up and people start saying, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, then the way the water runs gets really disrupted. But what is the federal guys? Soil conservation, that's what I call them. I know they're called something else. NRCS, okay. So are you guys bringing in NRCS so that they kind of look at the big picture and say, this is how it should be contoured, this is what's best for this whole property, and now we can start putting people on and kind of letting them know, like, we're going to be facing this, so if you're going to grow this here, because those guys have been real helpful in trying to help people like manage their land and manage the water and manage the soil. So I'm wondering if they're being brought in alongside to kind of give you that big picture scope before it starts getting chopped up. Thanks. Yeah, what she said.
Comprehensive stormwater management plan. So the Natural Resources Conservation Service, the federal agency that does do soil and water conservation plans, we haven't spoken with them yet, but they are on our list. We also have an engineering firm that is tasked with looking at things like drainage, so that we want to make sure that we do follow the laws about, manipulating drainage and making sure. We actually don't want to manipulate drainage too much. We want to work with the land. We're trying to find out what the land is telling us we should be doing. We know that there was some existing ag going on there. There's some existing roads on the property. Is there a way for us to, maintain that and just use that existing road network? That's something that we are looking at. So yes, that's a very good point, and thank you.
I guess my biggest concern with Hawaii Homeland's subdividing lots and offering it to many of the beneficiaries, and could be as many as 500 is the impact on the Honomu community. I mean, the last census had Honomu with 500 people, and there's a potential for it to be 5 times more people moving into this community, and it's going to greatly affect people's way of life and how they live. And not only the water, but, for example, like my ancestors are from here, my grandparents are from here, and they fished and hunted these lands for many, many years along this whole shoreline from people from Honomu, Pakalao, to the hill, and so forth. And I just think that with the great introduction of a lot of people to this rural village community is going to deplete our resources greatly, and it's going to change our life. We can't take our kids down to the beach because we have some people there, or the water may be polluted, or we can't take them diving and teach them to dive and get OP because not going to happen anymore. And I just feel that when you guys look at the planning and the amount of people that you bring to the community to do the right thing and have the community people involved to voice their kind of concern about their resources, and if it's a community like but you need to look at what you're affecting also. And I think that with working with each other, like maybe not 500 people, maybe 20 families, or like you have larger lot sizes or something where, I mean, you just look at the map and you see small Honomu town, and you see a big lot, and I just see like 10 people moving it. And no matter what you say about them doing subsistence agriculture, people don't own the land that they want to go. They might need to bring in more of their family to live with them. And I think residential, that's what people really want more. They might have land to farm, but they're going to bring a lot more people to their places.
Thank you. So the comment is that as we are planning this project, to really be mindful of how we are impacting the community, the potential for bringing in a lot more residents, and those impacts on your way of life and on the resources. And that's something that we should really take to heart and really think about as we do plan this. Is there a way to maybe bring in fewer families, or maybe it's even phasing a little bit at a time, but that's something that we can look at. Thank you. And you had a question too? Oh, you're raising. Making sure I saw. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Are you going to be developing both the north and south tracts at the same time, or is one going to go before the other? And also, do you have a projection as to the total population increase? Tagging on the last question, are you projecting what kind of population there might be at build-out for the whole project?
Okay, so the question is, are we planning on developing both parcels at the same time? And what kind of population increase are we expecting? We don't know yet for both questions. We are still figuring out, what it is that, so let me start with, in terms of how many people, we have yet to talk with the beneficiaries. We have yet to really get a full handle on what the environmental studies are telling us. So we don't know how big the lots are going to be, and therefore we don't know how many lots there are going to be. And then in terms of which parcel and at the same time or in phases, we don't know. Again, that's going to be something that we will consider. Does it make more sense to do one side versus the other first? Maybe it's easier to do one side versus the other, so we'll start there. We don't know, and that's something that we will come back to you with. But there was a question up here. Yes, ma'am.
What is the budget for this project?
The budget for this project, I wish I could remember off the top of my head. Let me get back to you on that. Well, there's multiple parts to it, right? So,
because we're starting with the planning phases, we don't yet know the total construction costs, and because we're still evaluating the level of infrastructure that'll go in. For the department, it may be phased over several years, possibly depending on what resources are available that come to us either from the legislature or from our own trust fund budget.
And I don't mean this with any disrespect, but history tells me that projects get designated and then the infrastructure money is not there. And so then the people that were the designees that were hopeful end up falling away because I particularly think of the property that abuts Paradise Park. That's a very good example of what happened there. All that land is sitting fallow. So how can we care about this community, we care about our Hawaiian culture, and we'd like to see more people have opportunities to have their own property and home. How can we stay involved in this process beyond tonight's discussion? Is there a website that can be plugged into, a blog?
So the question is, how can the community stay involved in the process? Because we want to make sure that it does continue, something does actually happen. We are setting up a website. So again, if you haven't signed in and given us your contact information, please do, because we will be sending you the link for our website. And on the website, we'll have the notes from the meetings. We will have announcements for future meetings. We will have some draft materials as they come out. So we will be setting up a website. And then part of the next steps, we will be letting you know when we plan on coming back to you. Okay. And I feel like I've been ignoring this side. Yes?
It'd be great to see Hawaiians actually
is our land. I also want to say 3 acres, that's a lot. I mean, there's some people growing taller and less, smaller than that, and they're doing pretty good. This is great land. It will give great food if people want to cultivate it. I do have one question though. Will people be able to just sort of get a lease and then sublease it out to whoever they want? Or will it be the people that get the lease, the Hawaiians that get the lease actually using the land? Because it would be kind of weird if some Hawaiian got one lease and then they were like, subletting it to whoever. I mean, I don't know.
Will lessees be able to sublease, or are they required to actually cultivate?
That's a very good question. These are homestead leases, so they're very specific. Only a Native Hawaiian, as defined under the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act, can hold a homestead lease. So it'll be the expectation that the lessee is actually using the land. However, lessees can, in some cases, do what are called a third-party agreement, which is a sublease to another eligible Native Hawaiian. But that has to be approved by the commission. It's unlikely, at least in the initiation of this, that would be allowed, because the intent is that you are supposed to use it for your family, to take care of your family, or to support your family, as opposed to a means to generate income, principally.
More questions? Oh, okay, yes, ma'am.
The department has with the county public. When you talk about this MOU, it would be nice for us as the people who live here to be able to know what
the memorandum of understanding dates back to, it's about 15 or 20 years old, essentially 2002, so that's 15 years ago. Is my math correct, I think? Basically what it does, it's a public document. If you're interested in it, you can submit what's called a Uniform Information Practices Act to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, what we call a UIPA, for that information, and we can make it available to you. Basically what the memorandum does is it clearly defines when the land use issue between the Department of Hawaiian Homelands and the county, because that's usually where we have not rubs, but some misunderstandings sometimes in other counties. That's a principal issue. It also addressed, because at that period of time there were some property tax delinquencies, so it's kind of specific to that point in time. But if you want a copy of it, certainly you can just submit a request for UIPA, and then we can make that available to you. Yes, ma'am.
Consider putting that up on the website instead of having people have to request. But that's up to our planning department, so I put it in his hands. No pressure.
Yes, sir.
Another question what type of restrictions, or if any restrictions at all, will there be on the homes themselves regarding the size of the house, like minimum and maximum square footage, or whether it will be a single family dwelling or multiple family dwelling units? Are there any parameters around that?
Okay, so the question is, will there be any restrictions on the homes themselves if lessee chooses to build a home? Is there going to be a restriction on whether it's, thank you, whether it's going to be single family, multifamily? Is there going to be restrictions on the size of the house, that type of thing?
So right now, again, those would be provisions specific to the lease, but essentially the minimum is that it's a building that could be permitted in this county. So they would need to meet the minimum, if that's the minimum requirements to secure a building permit for residential in this county. That's the intention. There are provisions that allow for an exemption in our rules. So if you go onto our website, you can look up the newest set of rules regarding subsistence ag. It does allow for an exemption if a homesteader gets a stamp from an engineer saying, yeah, I'm willing to attest that this is a safe building. And I believe that if there's any kind of additional units. It's intended to be single family, but it does allow, depending on the size of the lot, for the possibility of more than one dwelling unit, because that has been a concern in other communities. But again, I think it's subject to the department's approval if that occurs. So because we don't yet know the sizes of these lots, our intention is not to overwhelm the infrastructure. And so there may be limitations based on the size of the lot here, and that hasn't yet been set. Yeah, we just know the max.
Yes, sir.
Some seniors in here, and I'm not talking them down because it might be intelligent, but there's not everybody has a computer and has know-how on the computer. So there should be some other kind of information coming from you folks, community.
Okay, so the comment is that not everyone can access a website, so we should have alternative methods of reaching out to the community. We would welcome suggestions. We can work with maybe the village association to see if there's opportunities for how to best communicate with everyone. Thank you. There was another question up here somewhere. You had a question.
About growth as well, because I have to leave early enough to go to school and to get there on time, and then so I live lower than what's going to happen. But I'm worried about traffic and then seeing growth within the schools, because then they would have to choose between Hilo High and Waikea, and they're both pretty small exams for me, so I'm just kind of worried about that with how much people are in the family.
The growth of the community and its impacts on things like traffic and school population. So, thank you. There was, yes. Well, we don't know yet. We are looking at things like that. That's part of what we're trying to do. We don't have the answers yet, but we want to know what answers do we need to find out for you. So, thank you. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm sorry? We don't know yet. Yeah.
All the way across the town, if you got 10 cars that want to make lefts during traffic hour. And then, you know what I mean? Because like it's pretty busy right now. I mean, I'm her mom, sorry. So I'm just continuing more about it. And then if it's 5 times as many cars, or if you're on the main road and you want to make a left to come home, it could be a long way. You got 5 more people.
Right, so again, additional concern about traffic. So yeah, we are looking at traffic. That's definitely something that we are concerned about. We have a traffic consultant on board. We will be working with the State Department of Transportation on that.
But there's nothing like your guys' knowledge of the local resource and how, when to not be on the road and where the traffic ends up and whether you have ideas for improvement. So this is your chance to get all your good ideas on, out so that we can have the best solutions, basically.
Okay. Yes.
It's right along the same line. The buses that come in have to turn around in the intersection for Highway 220, right? They're backing in and out in the morning to get turned around. So I assume there will be more buses, and that's going to be an issue. But I live on the back road going out towards Pepacao, and there's a sign that says end of county road before you get to my place. From that point on, there's 4 streams that you have to cross before you can get back out to the highway. Now, it used to be maybe 20 of us living back there, and it was a dirt road. Somebody has been paving it bit by bit, which is kind of nice for us, but now it's a lot more attractive to drive down this road. People are now going by 25 miles an hour instead of 5 miles an hour. Those 4 bridges, none of them are in good shape. 3 of them have no railings at all. They're basically just a hole dug under the road with either a pipe or an old rail facade. No rails. People are coming through there all night now. And one of them is falling into the street. So if it's not a county road, I know you have it. It is a county road. It is the old highway. I didn't think you could just put a sign that says not yours anymore. So my question is, does the MOU cover very costly upgrades to infrastructure that are going to be needed to account for the traffic and just having an emergency route that is accessible during an emergency?
Okay, so a couple points. One was how the buses have to do those turnarounds in the intersection, and that's a concern, because if there are if there is a need for more school buses, then that could be a little bit of concern. And then also for additional traffic on some of the side streets, how now some of them have become they become busier. Mhm. Okay. Okay. Okay, so, but these roads, there's more traffic on them. There's actually, they cross multiple streams. They don't have railings on them. Does the MOU cover costly improvements to these types of infrastructure? I'm not.
The short answer is no. The short answer is no. The memorandum does not cover the impact to county modes of transportation, but certainly if this the more we understand about the impact to the transportation, then the sooner we can start the discussion with the legislature in terms of the funding sources or the changes that need to be made, whether it's a state system or whether it's a county, because we certainly want to be in collaboration, that if this project is going to have an impact, then how do we make sure that those impacts are addressed, in terms of upgrading to the county or to the state transportation, the highways that are going to be impacted. So this is really good, very helpful, because then we're just at the beginning to understand what the impacts could be, and if we can identify them and start to, what the potential solutions would be, then we can start talking early on with our legislators about funding over time, whether it's, the planning, the engineering, the design, all of that.
Yes. So the question is, what kind of infrastructure are we planning? Primarily water sources. We don't know yet, but we are looking at, because we are early. We're not coming in with a plan yet. We want to find out from, what does the land tell us? What is your community telling us? In terms of water, in terms of crops and irrigation, there is a lot of rainfall. The people that are on the land right now, it's rain-fed crop irrigation, so that's a benefit. If it is, I think we are looking at things like individual catchment systems, so that's an option. But if you have ideas for us, if you have suggestions, we're open to that. Yes, sir.
The opportunity to use their land to feed their families, etc., maybe bring some crops to market. I think what most people are saying is that there's concerns about the economy of scale. It's challenging to farm. It's challenging to farm just on a few acres. Some of the things that might make it helpful would be for the organization to think about how to give these folks a chance to be successful. And that might be a lot of things. I mean, we've already talked about rainwater runoff, about how to manage pesticides and herbicides. If people plan to go to market, USDA has come up with some new rules about how you have to manage your crop and wash it. And that's something that any small farmer can't manage on their own. You have to do as a conglomerate or collective, as some of the folks here have done. But is that something that this is in part of the plan? The other thing that would really be helpful too is that it's unfortunate, but unfortunately agricultural theft is a big, big problem. And if you live on the property and you're watching your property, you're still going to probably have some theft, but you can probably manage it. If you've got folks that are living, in Hilo or elsewhere coming out to their property on the weekend to try to grow their gardens, that's going to be a bigger problem. So that's just a security issue, and especially if there's going to be a larger population, that might be something that's helpful to talk with the police department, to talk with Corey and others, that would be helpful to have a substation there. But the security needed to allow people to, say, build their homes and not have materials taken or to grow crops, would seem to me to be something that we would look at.
Just a couple of comments. One is that it's very hard to farm. It's hard for people who especially haven't farmed before maybe to learn the ropes, to figure out what works, what doesn't. So maybe there's a need for some kind of group or association or network or some kind of support so that people can learn and collaborate with. So that was the first comment. The second comment is that agricultural theft is a big deal here. And we have heard that from several people. We've gotten some phone calls, some emails from people that said, hey, you know, everybody I know who farms here has been hit. So that is something that we do need to consider and plan for. So thank you. Yes, sir. The question is, if all of the plans come into fruition, will this be the biggest community of its kind? This is actually the first subsistence ag community for DHHL. So yes, by default. Yes, I'm sorry, you had a question?
There's a possibility that one of those lots up there would be a commercial lot to be sort of like a corner store for the folks up there. If that, I don't know if the community would be pleased with that, or it would take some of the load off of the town center as it is.
So the question is, if there's an opportunity for or if there's a commercial opportunity up in this property, maybe there's a possibility for like a kind of a corner store or a convenience store to be able to alleviate some. Is that what? Oh, alleviating traffic flow if there is a store on the upper part. Okay. We're not eliminating anything at this point. We are wanting to find out what will make this community successful. So we will look at everything that people suggest, and we'll see maybe what's appropriate.
There's a fear
Yes,
that
sir.
some of your subdivisions have the commercial aspect. There's a possibility to throw a Burger King, a Miracle Mile, a car lot, and this and that up there. And when you're working with people of the age you're talking about, I mean, that's not your usual sustaining farming community. So I think we're sort of looking at their children's habits, what they're going to do after their parents finally get what they've been promised 50 years ago for some of these people. So I think some of the concern is how much, I think what a lot of this community is concerned about is the development. Okay, so a lot of us see you as a very hopeful partner for development. Okay, there's a lot of development that are in it for subdivisions, condos, move everyone in from Oahu, put a big shopping mall up there. That's not what we're looking at happening. But what we'd like to see is the farming. And we'd like to see some accountability. On the good side, it could be farm lots, it could be a lot of happy people, it could be a lot of prosperity for our small town. On the bad side, it could be more crack, ice heads. We have a lot of crystal meth problems. Okay, we have a lot of tourists coming in that area. We have a lot of tour buses that come up there now. We have the question of the road needing to be widened up a lot. So we're wondering, funding for a small town, the trash, we're going to have to wait in line for 5 hours for trash now. Are you going to have your own water system? Are you going to have your own resources? How much is it going to take from our community versus that? Are you going to have police that are there 24 hours a day? Are you going to move there? Because we would like you to move there. We'd like to have someone there who's on the ground, your eyes, who see things. This meeting could, all the hubcaps, all the tires, all the catalytic converters, and all the cars outside could have been stolen within this amount of time. And that's the fear. The fear is there's a lot of wealth here. It's not riches, it's wealth, it's a quality of life. And we'd like that to be enhanced rather than to be taken care of. And I really think there's a great possibility for that to happen. And I think that's what I would like to see. I would like to have supported. And there is this hope that there is funding, because a lot of the money that we see go into your community, go to your section, those are publicized numbers. We hear the big numbers. We don't hear where it all goes to, so I would just assume that that's really what it's, because a lot of that gets absorbed into running the programs. But we'd like to see a lot of that reinvested. And I think I was sort of shocked when you say 5% of your farming communities out of what should be 100% are functioning the way that they are. So there's a question of why isn't this working? What's the reinforcement? Where are the policing? Where's the follow-up? How is this going to be different in our community? And I think that's really what we're looking at as the future of what this will do to this town. Because it could be Oahu West, it could be anything. So we're really concerned. I think that's really where a lot of these concerns come from, as that development aspect comes in. So what's the 20-year, what's the 40-year, what's the 80-year plan?
A lot of things going on there. So the main concern is development. You know, what does development mean? What might be coming in addition to subsistence ag? If there's a commercial aspect, does that mean a Burger King is going to come in? Does that mean, you know, some big box is going to come in? What actually are we looking at? I don't think we do that, but there are other things that we're looking at in terms of supporting subsistence ag. We're going to get a better idea of those types of land uses in the next few weeks, a couple months, and that's why we're going to be doing that conceptual plan.